Hello everybody, Maven here, and I'm a big fan of the Oathkeeper Exotic Hunter gauntlets. They were my main back in the day in Crucible with the Lemon Arc, no shame. Also use them as my main Gambit Invader build with the Leviathan's Breath to have that infinite draw time. But outside of this niche, there's not really a use for them. Even ever since they got buffed 2 years ago, I've never seen a single person use these things, but they did just receive a nice big buff in the Edge of Fate. So now you get 50% more damage at the top ceiling and have a greater damage bonus earlier in your draw. So with that said, are they good now? Well, today we're going to put them to the test with a bunch of different exotic bows to see how they perform and if they're finally worth running. So let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. Shout out to our sponsor, Advanced GG, the #1 gaming supplement in the world. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off. Link down below. Thank you. All right, so before we start, just a little FYI, tomorrow there will be no upload because it's the day 1 raid and I'm gonna be busy with that, but afterwards we'll resume as normal. So let's talk about the Oathkeepers. This exotic allows you to hold your bow draws indefinitely. So if you are new to the game and never used a bow, basically when you draw a bow, you gotta let go of your trigger right when the bow is fully drawn to get maximum damage, and if you hold it too long, you start to get wobbly, the bow lets go of itself automatically and you lose some damage for that. So you gotta get like a perfect draw. However, with the Oathkeepers, you can literally hold that trigger indefinitely and you will always get maximum damage out of your bow as if it was always a perfect draw. And as of recent times, and by recent I mean a couple years ago, they updated the Oathkeepers, so now the longer you hold your bow, it's going to rack up this damage perk on the left side of your screen that's going to up the damage of your bow. And in the recent TWID, they gave this thing a buff. I will read the buff here. They increased the maximum damage bonus from plus 150% damage to 200 and now provides more of the total damage bonus earlier in the overdraw to compensate for how slow it was previously, because it wasn't that useful. You had to wait super long to get the maximum benefit, and now you can actually have a little bit of leeway to let that bow go early and still do good damage. So let's go to the shooting range and I'll show you how it works just with like a basic legendary precision frame bow. So at base damage with no stacks, we do 204 damage. And then when we start to hold our arrow, you're going to start to see that meter fill up on the left side of the screen into 4 sections. That is the Oathkeeper perk. And at 1 stack, our damage goes up to 343, which is a 63% damage buff. Not too shabby for just holding it for like literally half a second. And then at 2 stacks, we go up to 472, which is a 132% damage buff. And then at 3 stacks, we go up to 559, which is a 174% damage buff, and 4 stacks is actually exactly the same as 3 stacks at 174%. So you only need to charge it 3/4 of the way there and you're getting maximum 174% bonus damage, and that's pretty hefty for holding your bow for literally like 2 seconds longer. So with that explanation out of the way, I wanted to do a big damage test against Carl using all exotic bows. By the way, this is not even really Carl because this is a bigger and more boss tier combatant that cannot be killed and cannot be suspended. So we're gonna call him Dop, aka Carl's doppelganger, dummy of practice, DOP. That's his new name. So before we get to our bows, just for a comparison, I wanted to show you how much damage we do with sniper rifles. So with the rapid fire frame sniper, we do 428 damage. And then with a high impact frame, the icebreaker, we do 1016 damage. So now let's kick things off with the Wish Ender. It does 179 damage plus 2 ticks of 160 at base. And then when you charge it, it does 479 plus 2 ticks of 160. Those 2 little backup arrows, they do not change in damage, only the primary arrow does. The 160s will never change. And then moving on to the Oathkeeper bow, we do 224 at base and then 614 when charged. And since we cannot suspend Carl, we're going to do another test against legionaries that can be suspended, but the damage numbers are going to vary since it is a minor combatant as opposed to a boss tier combatant. So you're just going to have to calculate it differently. But anyways, at base, 584 damage to a suspended target, and then when charged, 1398 damage. And then the next one is not an exotic bow, but this is what I would consider the strongest legendary bow. It's the Accrued Redemption because it gets kinetic tremors, which is just insane on a bow because when enhanced, it procs in just 2 shots. So the base kinetic tremors damage is 163 and that takes 3 times. So base damage to the crit 204 and when charged does 539, and unfortunately it does not buff the tremors damage, only the arrow damage. But still, 539 plus 3 ticks of 163 comes out to a lot more than the Wish Ender did. However, there is a huge flaw with this, and I'll show you here in this clip. So if you pay close attention to the perk on the left side of the screen, you'll see it disappear while I'm still charging, because those tremors are going off while I'm charging and they're hitting the boss, and the game thinks, oh, you must have hit something, therefore we're going to remove the perk, and then your next arrow will not get buffed because apparently the perk already activated. This doesn't seem intentional, so consider this my bug report if anyone from Bungie is watching. And same thing happened with the Oathkeeper. When I suspended something and something else walked into the suspend while I was mid-charge, it removed the perk. And then moving on to the Lemon Arc, at base we do 192 plus 6 ticks of 31 damage. Now I swear it wasn't like this before, like right before Edge of Fate. I swear that the Lemon Arc's poison only ticked 4 times, not 6 times. So I don't know if this is a bug or if they just undid the nerf that they previously issued to it. But anyways, when you charge it does 527, and those 6 ticks of 31 are unchanged, just like our other bows from before. And moving on to the Trinity Ghoul, we do 70 times 3, and then when charged, we do 190 times 3. And I wanted to test to see if shooting the ground and spreading the lightning shot around would be buffed. It does 135 damage times 3. And unfortunately, when charged, it does not change that either. I really thought it actually would affect that, but sadly it does not. And next up, we got the Tiku's Divination. The arrow hits for 199 damage, and the detonation hits for 271. And when you charge it, the detonation is unchanged at 271, but the arrow hits for 534. And next up, we get the Hierarchy of Needs. At base, hits for 233. And when charged, hits for 625. But when you put up that Guidance Ring perk, the arrow damage is unchanged, but you do get those 3 rockets that hit for 154 each. But when you charge your bow, those rocket damages are unchanged, just like all the other bows from before. And finally, I wanted to test out the Leviathan's Breath. This didn't work with the Oathkeeper before, but I just wanted to test the waters and see if it did now, but it does not. It still hits for 850 plus 1152 and also makes the enemy volatile. And just to humor it, I tried out the non-denouement with Volt Shot, and the jolting damage did not change when charged, so I just wanted to try that out. Now, I'm no Error, I'm no Aegis Relic, I'm not really the person to go to when it comes to calculating DPS, so I really just kind of eyeballed it using some of our top performing options against Carl, just spamming at him and then also charging at him. And I feel like just like from eyeballing it, I think it is worth it, because you could be spamming arrows all day long, but if you hold it for just like a couple seconds, get halfway up that bar, like at least you're going to get 132% damage buff for only charging halfway. So that's like almost 2.5 arrows worth of damage right there if you just wait an extra second. Plus, in general play, especially in higher level content where you're more likely to use a bow for like champions or something, you're not going to be spamming arrows nonstop all the time, because sometimes you're going to have to get into cover to get safe, or you're like from a distance, or you're just moving from area to area. You're going to have downtime to be holding those arrows. And when you let them go, they're going to be doing 174% more damage when you finally find your combatant or you're switching from target to target. I honestly think that it is worth it. Like, that's a hefty amount of damage. And remember, our rapid fire sniper rifle hit Carl for 428 damage, and every single bow that we tested hit Carl for even more than that when fully charged, some of them for more than double what our sniper hit for. The Accrued Redemption and the Tiku's Divination were some high damaging options, but they required 2 shots to activate their perks and do what they do, so I don't really count those. The highest damaging bow on its own in a single shot was the Hierarchy of Needs, but through the Guidance Ring. Without the Guidance Ring, it's not. And when you have the Guidance Ring up, I don't think you want to be chilling out to charge that bow. I think you want to be spam firing, because the more you're spam firing, the more you're going to get off the volley of 3 rockets, and that's where all the DPS comes from. So it's a very high DPS spam fire bow, and the Guidance Ring perk is actually very, very quick and easy to activate. It's actually pretty excellent, and I'm planning on maybe doing a video with this thing in the future, because it's actually exceeding my expectations. But, you know, as it sits, the bow that does the most damage in a single shot outside of needing any perk whatsoever is, of course, to nobody's surprise, the Wish Ender. Despite the fact that those 2 little backup arrows don't get buffed by the perk, it's still just a very high damaging primary weapon. So now I wanted to move on from Carl and do some testing against some knights, a very common enemy type throughout the game that are relatively tanky. And I wanted to see if some of our top performing options were capable of one-shotting knights. So I started off with the Lemon Arc, and we do 800 flat, and then the poison ticks is 6 ticks of 47. Didn't quite one-shot, it got very far away from it. So I moved on to the Tiku's Divination. We did 810 plus 410. It came pretty close, and it would have one-shot if I got 6 stacks of the Causality Arrows perk. But the problem is that perk wears off over time, but you're also spending time charging the bow. So the time you're charging it, you're going to lose the Causality Arrows. So it doesn't pair too well with the Oathkeepers. And just to humor it, I wanted to see if our rapid fire sniper was capable of one-shotting these knights, and it came very close, doing 1368 damage, but it wasn't quite there. So if any of our bows could one-shot these knights, that would be pretty impressive. So finally, I moved on to the Wish Ender, and it didn't just one-shot one knight, it was able to one-shot 3 knights at the same time, because the Wish Ender pierces through targets, and it just does insane amounts of damage. It is ridiculous. This is probably the most broken Grandmaster weapon ever since it got its buff a few years back. This thing one-shots any trash mobs, even in Grandmasters. I gotta say, I'm not surprised that Wish Ender is the hardest hitting option of the day, because it's always been the hardest hitting primary in the game. Even though those 2 little backup arrows don't get buffed by the charge of the Oathkeepers, it's still the hardest hitting bow. It's like insane. This weapon has been a staple of my loadouts for many years. Whenever I'm doing a build based around a special weapon in the energy slot, and then I just need something for range in the top slot, I'm like, might as well throw on the Wish Ender, might as well use the hardest hitting primary in the game. Like, why not? It has no range fall off. It one-shots anything that is not a yellow bar, so sure. And this is my go-to weapon for Grandmasters. It will never fail you. It doesn't even matter if there's no barrier champions. You just need to hit stuff hard, throw on the Wish Ender, and you're good to go. This is a reliable weapon through and through, and you should even consider putting it in your loadout for the day 1 raid, because there's going to be a lot of very tanky stuff, I'm pretty sure, and you can never go wrong with the Wish Ender. And out of all of the bows we tested today, Wish Ender is the only one with an intrinsic champion perk, and also the only one that doesn't require a perk to do its thing. All the other bows need activations of something. They need to charge a perk. They need to do a thing. Wish Ender needs to do nothing, yet it is still the strongest. Like, it makes no sense. Like, the power creep is real. This is just above and beyond the most OP bow ever. And Bungie has never nerfed it. They have never talked about nerfing it, and I hope they never nerf it. I'm happy with it. This thing is a monster. And I gotta say, I think the Oathkeepers are actually pretty worthwhile here, and I'm hyped to try it out in Grandmaster content later in the season. Although they did say there's not going to be any Grandmasters anymore, so I don't know what there's going to be, but whatever it may be that's replacing Grandmasters, I will happily try out the Oathkeepers in that, because my go-to exotic is usually just a throw-on. You know, like if I'm on Void Hunter, I'll throw on Aeons to make ammo, or I'll throw on Omnioculus to get more invis, or maybe Graviton Forfeit if you're solo. So it's like your exotic on Void Hunter doesn't really matter too much. So because it doesn't matter too much, might as well throw on the Oathkeepers and get 174% more damage on your Oathkeeper shots. Like, I think it's definitely worth it, because you're going to be playing it safe, chilling far back, chilling around corners. You just hold up that bow, peek out, dome something, hits them like way harder than a sniper, and you're just going to be doing really good damage. Can't go wrong. Now, I want to break down the Oathkeeper build I'm using, but first, one more bow that I at least have to give a mention to is the Mercury A. This is the brand new high impact longbow frame that we just got this season, and I do not have one. I do not know where you get one. If anybody knows where to get one, please let me know. But this thing is a higher impact, slower draw time bow, and I have a feeling it'll hit pretty hard at the Oathkeepers. Probably not harder than the Wish Ender, but still it is worth a mention. Alright, so now we can quickly break down the build. Not going to spend too much time on it because the video's focus was more on this Oathkeeper overhaul rather than the build itself. So for our subclass here, we got Trappers, Ambush, and Vanishing Step. And we got Starvation, Obscurity, Undermining, and Persistence. And then on to the mod setup, it's just based around having the triple kinetic surge to support our Wish Ender and make it do 22% more damage. And if you can get your mobility stat, aka your weapon stat, as high as possible, your weapon just could be doing way more damage. So just invest as much into the weapons as you can. If not, you can invest into, like, I don't know, grenade or something. Class would also be good to go invis more. But then we just got to make orbs for this thing, which we can do with Reaper, Kinetic Surge, and I think that's about it. And then we just got Powerful Attraction, Time Dilation, some resist mods, and then Firepower to make more orbs, and then Bolstering Detonation so we can try to get our dodge back so we can have invis up more consistently. Got a Finder, and got Dynamo. And for your loadout with this build, doesn't really matter what you run as long as you got the Wish Ender. You can run whatever special and heavy you need to run to cover the grounds that the Wish Ender doesn't. Since the Wish Ender is going to lack that up-close frantic group ad clear right up in your face, you can run something like maybe a Wayframe GL like the Martyrs with auto-loading Incandescent for that purpose, and then run whatever DPS heavy. So that pretty much does it for the build. As always, the dim loadout link to the build will be down below in the description, and also the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. And if you got any buddies who are Hunter mains and you think they might find interest in this, I'd appreciate if you consider sharing this with them. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will you be trying out the Oathkeepers? Is there a bow that I may have missed that might be really cool with this? Let me know your thoughts. And if you are new here to the channel, I'd appreciate if you consider subscribing. Would love to have you here for more Edge of Fate content on the way. Got a lot of builds in the works. Going to be releasing videos daily throughout the week, excluding tomorrow because it's raid day, by the way. Best of luck on the raid. I hope you have fun. I hope you completed day 1, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.